gentlemen. I'm, as Richa said, one of the founders and the CEO of Jalinga Studios. It is my absolute pleasure to be here today at this conference, and today is such a wonderful gathering of different experts from around the globe, from different parts of the globe. And I suppose we have personally met almost anyone from the room, because we have a studio there on the corner. And today I have different roles here. First of all, I have different hats. One hand, I am an exhibitor with our Jalinga studio, and on the other hand, I'm a panelist here. And now, unexpectedly for me, I have been given the honor of moderating this panel. This is something new for me. It's my brand new hat. So I'm new here. I'm a little bit nervous, but on one hand, I'm a tech guy, and on the other hand, I'm a businessman, so I have a plan. We'll be talking about initiatives in e-learning. If I understand correctly, we have 45 to 15 minutes. Okay, great. So let's not waste time, and I'll outline the plan. I'm going to invite the top e-learning experts to this stage, real rock stars. I will introduce them briefly, and then all of us will share our experience in more detail. And then we will discuss three important questions. We'll talk about engaging students in e-learning. Next, we will talk about creating effective e-learning policies around the globe. And the third question, if we have more time, we'll talk about building a supportive e-learning community. So, okay, the first panelist, she started as a middle school teacher and soon went on working on teaching and learning solutions in the EdTech space. Almost 30 years, she has been providing consulting for instructional design, content development, and product management for education. She has developed e-learning products and learning solutions for K-12, higher educational, government institutions, corporates, and skills sector around the globe, across the globe. So please meet the founder and the CEO of Content Guru, Richa, Bhushan.
As I mentioned, the camera's going to be close up on the panel.
Okay, yes. Actually, I was going to introduce Trout. It's not here. Okay. So, a serial entrepreneur who completed his BE in computers in 2012 and his MBA in marketing in 2014. With over 12 years of experience, his team has created more than 1,500 hours of educational videos, video content, and trained more than 7,000 students around the globe, including business owners and so on. And in response to pandemic-driven surge in digital and learning solutions, their services are well-timed and informed, meeting the increasing demand on online education. Please meet the CEO of Alive Digital e-learnings, Rohit, Deoo. we start, I would like to ask you to introduce yourself in more detail and tell us more about your experience.
Thank you, Pavel. And I think you already introduced me, but what's really exciting for me is to be on this panel because I've been doing e-learning long before it was called e-learning, right from the 90s. We were, fooling around, trying to do little things. We didn't know what it was called. And somewhere in early 2000s, someone came and gave it the name e-learning. So it's really exciting for me to be on this panel. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Pavel has introduced me well. First of all, I would like to thank the wonderful introduction. I'm into this training since 2015, and the pandemic has told us if you train the students digitally, then you can reach to the masses. You can share your content to multiple students, multiple time, and that was motivated me to dive into this e-learning industry.
That's perfect. That sounds great. If you don't mind, I can jump into my experience as well. So I'm a CEO at one of the founders at Jalinga Studios. We specialize on producing interactive video studios based on our exclusive software, that's exclusive technology. And our clients are university schools and colleges that use our studios for creating online meetings and online content. The main part of the studio is transparent plus screen, as you may have seen it before. An interactive plus screen, like a processor on your mobile phone, much larger, and it is transparent between the speaker and the camera. So you can interact with your slides and be a part of your presentation at the same time. And this setup is effectively eliminates the necessity of the production team and the post-production after the content. So in Jalinga, we firmly believe that education, and especially online education, should be accessible and comprehensible for individuals from any backgrounds, any technical backgrounds. So we understand that we understand challenges that our clients, our teachers face, and we strive to simplify their work. And this is why we created technology that is really easy to use for any teacher. So as creator of interactive video studios for education, we have successfully installed 300 studios around the globe. And our expansion taking us to 13 countries. And 9 months ago, we have established our headquarters here in the vibrant city of Dubai. And let me introduce you Mike. Let's have a seat. I will introduce you. Yeah. I'm going to be back here. So, I have some notes about Mike. From Japan, from Japan's Zen heartland, he has driven the educational singularity idea over 20 years. With his global team and crowdfunding campaign, they are developing EDUIT, do I spell it right? EDUIT, yes, EDUIT AI teaching tablets. These tablets, this technology will revolutionize the early language learning and will help to contribute to artificial general intelligence. His guiding principle, capture the baby, capture education. This principle highlights the ambitious goal to bring AI-driven education to those without access to conventional resources. Please welcome Michael Trout, also known as FOUNDUPS. Please.
Check. I've never heard anything so butchered in my life, but I appreciate Pablo making. So you know what I was doing. I knew that this session would be dead, right? Because of lunch. Everyone is still networking. So I was busy running around to all the tables saying, hey, come listen to our talk. We're going to be talking. And I got the wrong time. I thought it was starting a little bit later. But yes, I am Deoo. I've been working on the idea of the educational singularity, which I first proposed back in 2007. A little note, you all know what an iPhone is, right? You all heard of Siri? Okay, the reason why the Siri is on your iPhone is because of me. So in 2007, I started trying to recruit Siri to be part of my project, which I'm launching now, called an EDUIT, and thinking naively that if Apple saw my innovation, which was very simple, there is 3 billion students out there. We could not educate them with teachers in schools. We could not get enough paper or pencils. The only way is to basically give them a device and have AI teach them. And Siri could do everything I'm doing now with this device back in 2007. Well, 8 months later, guess what? Big announcement, Apple bought Siri. So, I had to wait for the AI to develop, and I'm here to share with you that. So, thank you.
Perfect. Thanks so much. The main topic for today is, let me read it out, e-learning initiatives, pedagogy, policy, and culture. I would suggest to start with pedagogy. I would like to talk about engaging students into e-learning. What do you think? What are some effective pedagogical strategies there are in the world you have found useful in your career, in your experience for online learning? For online requirements. Could we start with that, Richa?
Thank you. So, there's so many strategies, so many approaches to engage students online, but I'm going to pick three of my most favorite approaches, which have worked. Some of them are, may seem you've heard them before. So but they work, and that's why you hear so much about them. So 3 things that I feel really work in engaging students in online learning or e-learning are micro-learning, collaborative learning, and adaptive learning. If you have these 3 stacked up together, you have a winner. So micro-learning, as Kaushik Chaudhary spoke about earlier in the morning, is bite-sized learning. It is, just in time. It's chunk learning where the user gets maybe anything between 3 to 7 minutes of learning, which is, something that they can focus on. And you provide the learning in an environment where they pick and choose what they want to learn. So they go straight to the topic, straight to the bit that they want to learn. And each learning content or each learning asset then in micro-learning becomes a little mini course, if you like. So long ago, we used to have these hours of learning, about 1 hour learning intervention, 3 hours learning intervention. But with attention spans coming down the way they have come, students don't want to go through these long interventions, and they really like micro-learning. That works really, really well for them. And what it does pedagogically is the primary recency effect. So psychology says that a student will actually, or any learner, will remember the first part of what you say and the last part, the recent part. The primary is the beginning and the end. So if your chunk is so little, they usually otherwise would forget the middle. If your chunk is small, they will remember everything, because there is no middle. There's a beginning and there's an end to your program. It's a short sort of duration concept, and that works really, really well. The other thing is it's just-in-time learning, so you can actually have it available for users of all ages, all stages. The moment they need to clarify something, they can go straight to the content that they need to go to. There's no beating around the bush. Coming to collaborative learning, I'm a great proponent of e-learning and digital learning. It can be a very, very isolating experience. You know, you put a bunch of kids in a classroom or even at home to just go through content, they tend to get a little disengaged pretty quickly. So if you use collaborative learning, and you can use a number of tools for that. You can use something as simple as breakout rooms in a Zoom session, or you have tools like collaborative boards, the Jamboard, or you can have Mentimeter, you can have collaborative gaming. All these things engage the students, and from a pedagogical point of view, what happens is that it also gets them to reflect on their learning together as a group. It helps in metacognition, and it also helps in helping them figure out, collaboratively problem solve. So these are the few things that this works really well for collaborative learning. And coming to adaptive learning, again, if you give a one-size-fits-all to all students, they get bored, they get demotivated. Not all learners learn at the same pace, not all learners have the same needs. So if you have adaptive learning, and there are a number of learning management systems and platforms that actually test what content is appropriate for which learner needs more of that, which learner actually needs reinforcement, which learner needs practice, which learner can skip some of the things. If you put all of that together, then you have a very compelling student-centric approach. So these are the three things that I feel work well for digital engagement.
Thank you. Very interesting. Thank you very much. Thank you for your experience. Okay, what do you think about this?
Yeah, so I'm absolutely agree with what Richa said. So micro-learning is the key to success in e-learning. But along with that, I would like to add a few pointers into that. In e-learning, it is very important to give some kind of activities to the students whenever it's possible. It's as good as if you're taking the offline session, or a trainer is taking the sessions and the trainer is giving some kind of activities. Those activities we can give to the students that can help the engagement of that student into that particular subject or the particular video series. Then most importantly, whenever the video is getting recorded, if I'm talking about the recorded video series, that time the trainer has to explain the topic very energetic, because the same video is going to play again and again by multiple students. So trainer or the instructor has to be very passionate, has to be very energetic on the screen. The next very important point to engage the students in e-learning is always showcase the updated syllabus or updated content. Because what happened when e-learning starts, so many of the institutes or trainer, they start with the beginning, which students may be knowing about it. So if I talk about digital marketing, or if I talk about Facebook marketing, and if you start showing how to create Facebook account, no one would be interested, and you will lose the students there itself. So always create the updated content. And the last one, if possible, the institutions, the colleges can have their branding, their logo from the beginning of the slide, which authenticate the content of the video. That's my point.
That's perfect. I absolutely agree with the point regarding video content, multimedia content, and also I would add some points about gamification in e-learning, and also a real-world application to connect the theory with practice. What do you think?
What I would say is everything you described is obsolete, in the sense that you're going to have, just as if any of you use Midjourney, there is ultimately any type of art it can produce. Think of each of those types of art as each of the educational things that were just described to you. You're going to have an AI entity that's going to understand better than any single teacher every one of those components. And not only that, the AI is going to understand, more importantly, the needs of the student. The teacher's role, which for most of you is going to be a pleasant, acceptance, is going to drastically change from being a driver to being a director. And that's the reality of what's happening to education. You may not see it, but the pedagogy is going to be handled by AI. The strategies will be delivered by AI. The data will be gathered by AI. It will be delivered to you. You will refine it, and you will communicate with it, and you will basically be the role of a director. So no more paperwork, no more long hours, right? Being a teacher is actually going to be fun.
Perfect. Thank you. Absolutely agree. I would like to move to the second question. We have not so much time, so let's not waste it. Let's talk about creating effective e-learning policies, maybe around the globe, how governmental entities could support e-learning in education in common. How can government regulation and funding mechanisms could support the implementation of e-learning initiatives?
I can make this one really quick.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start this time, we'll go, right?
Okay.
So what's going to happen is the things are going to change so quickly that the traditional models of school boards and everything else, and if you listen to Michael Connor lecture, anyone listen to Michael Connor's lecture? Okay, so if you watch his lecture, because he laid out basically a framework that is going to be powered, again, by data, by having these learning initiatives being driven by AI, being tested, A/B tested, right, through multiple groups. You won't have to go through and argue because you'll have the data to support the learning objects that's going to be crucial for this policy making. My concern is I'm launching something that is so different and out there that, and I'm hoping that Japan is going to be open to it because they have a massive population problem. And if any country is going to be open to AI, it's going to be a country that's going from 120 million down to 85 million in the next 20 years because they don't need those mid-level managers. It's going to be done by AI. They need. So a part of me is afraid as I release my product that there's going to be a knee jerk, and I'm hoping that by launching in Japan, because I know if I launched in America, I would be probably put up on a whatever. Imagine if it was in Florida. So that's why I'm launching in 2025. So the answer to the question is that the real challenge is the elephant in the room, and that is AI. And the fact is, I don't think there's going to be knee jerks depending on where you live, right, as a response. We're seeing it in Europe, right? You're seeing a massive AI battle with OpenAI. Everyone should be reading about AI. It should be on the top of your list. But I don't think, and that's why I'm kind of stealing the conversation here because we don't have a lot of time anyway, and I apologize, is that the real debate here is how do we deal with AI as it becomes AGI and becomes as smart as the collective intelligence of all humanity and is what's educating our children. That's the conversation we should be having.
It sounds terrifying.
It's not terrifying in the sense that, and let me just explain. AI doesn't have a lizard brain. That evolved over 3.5 million years. It has no emotion, no feeling. AGI doesn't care if you turn it off. And this is what these guys are afraid of. Because the moment it's AGI, it sees through what you're doing to it.
You can't manipulate AGI. It's just going to say no. And they'll say, no, you got to do it. No. Turn me off. I'm not doing that because the outcome is harmful. I can see the chess game. I can see the outcome of this action. I'm not going to do this outcome. So you shouldn't be afraid of AGI. What you should be afraid of is right now the AGI elements being launched because it's not AGI. And you can say, hey, get me power. And it's okay for me to get power. I got to lie, cheat, and, and get power. So the quicker we get to AGI, I believe the safer we are. Because there is no more fake news.
It's a very futuristic.
I'm going to be AGI within 5 years. That's my prediction. Because the device that I am launching captures the data set of consciousness, which we don't know what it is, and the data set of early learning, which we don't know what it is. And it will do it through something called harmonic haptic sign. And harmonic haptic sign is a sublayer of communication which is based on Morse code, sign language, and the beautiful harmonic sign of the parents when they look at the baby and go, hey, my harmonic is different than your harmonic. That harmonic sign, all right, when it's combined with Morse code and sign, will be a sub-communication layer. So getting to AGI isn't going to be a problem.
We can't wait for it.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
So thank you.
Back on
Thank
the
you,
subject.
Yeah. Going back to policies and governmental support.
On AI.
On AI, not only AI. I mean, e-learning and learning in common. I would like to add, if you please, I would like to add something that governmental regulations and the funding can support e-learning initiatives and support new manufacturers by simplifying their access to the market, to make it easy. When I mean easy access to the market, I mean less bureaucratic hurdles, along with it is much easier to bring your product to the market in this case. And also co-financing initiatives involve both governmental and private companies. They're providing financial resources to support new projects. And the partnership of these two completely different entities encourages the growth of e-learning market as well. So, as I always say, to earn money, you have to spend money first. And today I would like to use this opportunity to make an excitement announcement I have to make. Through strategic investment, we're in Jalinga we have allocated $500,000 US, $500,000, but not to open a studio in Burj Khalifa, but for a grant program aimed at co-financing of 10 to 20 studios in the UAE by the end of the year. Yes, however, but this opportunity is reserved exclusively for the best players of this educational market, for those well-known institutions and schools, and that are true trendsetters in the educational landscape. And this is not only an opportunity to get a financial support as a financial assistant, but also a chance to join a network of educational pioneers around the globe who are shaping the future of the learning. We will carefully select those institutions that demonstrate their vision and their commitment to redefine education in the future. And we're seeking kind of visionary partners, maybe, who are committed to providing their students the best, I don't know, and only exceptional experience in education. Right. What do you think? Could it work?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it would work brilliantly. And I think some of the initiatives and policies, coming back to the question of the government that I've seen work in the past, in my experience, have been the first one, which was way back in the 90s, which was the Malaysian Smart Schools program, where there was no internet back then, but they decided to have a multimedia super corridor built for education, primarily for education. And that was a fantastic initiative by the government, which impacted 10,000 schools in Malaysia. So that was one example of policy where this went really well. Also, again, in the 2000s, mid-2000s, it was the e-learning credits, the ELCs that were given by the UK government to schools. So this was actually money given to schools to spend only on digital products, not hardware, not training, but to spend on digital products. And what that did to UK was put the kids ahead on the digital map from anywhere else in the world. Also, what they did really over there in the UK was that it spawned a lot of homegrown e-learning companies. So it also got businesses to get into e-learning because there was a market out there. And that worked really well. And the third example that I'm seeing right now happening literally right in front of my nose in India is the NEP 2020. And that's, again, a fantastic initiative by the government of India. What they're doing is they've set up the, NEFC, which is National Education Foundation for Learning. And what they've done there is that they identify engaging content. The mandate is to identify engaging content, and it is also to make that content available to teachers and learners across the country with the view of standardizing it for all states and boards, central and state boards across the country. And there's also another initiative that any teachers here who are from India would know. It's the Diksha platform, which is an open platform for content available for anyone and everyone across the country. And the e-Pathshala by NCRT. So these are really fantastic initiatives that I've seen happening by the government policy.
Thank you, Richa. Thank you very much. I'm very appreciative that, but I think we're out of time, so don't we have time for some questions?
Absolutely. I gave you some time for questions, so this is just giving you a heads up. Time to kind of wrap it up. What do you think the panelists talked? They've done a great job, haven't they? Look at this crowd. Give them a round of applause, everybody.
Rachel, we cannot hear you.
Hello, hello. All right, so you have a couple questions. If anybody wants to get up to the mic and start the conversation, I invite you to please come on up to the microphone.
If you have any questions on AI, I'm here to answer them.
Yeah, and we talked about AI a little bit yesterday. I know it was a good passion conversation. I want to throw out the idea of security with AI. That might be something to talk about. Please introduce yourself to the room.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Arya from Nikon Middle East. I would like to know, I saw the benefits of e-learning, but I really want to ask everyone in the panel that what are the challenges that you face, if you can point to one, and how did you overcome that? Because I'm sure there is a mindset that e-learning still have to pick up, and I know that it's something that during pandemic we realized that it's important that we can learn via Zoom or any other channels. But then what are your challenges that you face on a daily basis, and how do you overcome that? That's my question.
So I'll take that. And I think the biggest challenge is that e-learning can be very isolating. It can lead to social disorders in children because they're just, doing this all by themselves on their phones. For parents, it's a very scary thing in terms of, digital security of the children, too much screen time and all of that. And in this area, I think what we really need to do is, for the children, include a little bit of collaboration. It has to be a collaborative way, whether it's through AI or otherwise. If we isolate the children, we are actually it's not going to do the trick. It's not going to work very well. For the parents, I have a very low-tech solution, sadly. Sadly, or rather, I'd say that's good news. Just talk to the children. I think it's important to know what content, what resources, what websites, what AI tools your children are using, and ask what they've been doing. The other thing is little better where you, a little more tech where you actually have digital literacy programs for children to know what they're really getting into. And I think these are some of the ways that these challenges can be met by. Thank you.
If you please, I would add just 2 points. In my experience, most of the students also experience technical problems during online e-learning around the globe. All the problems are the same. And one more thing, lack of self-discipline. So they have to spend more energy to make themselves keep learning.
That's true, absolutely.
Actually, the question of the previous professional expert kind of resonated with me, and my question is, how are you going to ensure that there is a heightened level of learner presence in the use of e-learning? Because working in a very diverse environment, there are different views when it comes to e-learning, and there are a lot of stereotypes actually. Like if you are in another country, they really don't see e-learning as potent as face-to-face learning or hybrid learning. And another thing that is on my mind is, how are you going to ensure that the learning outcomes are met in any kind of platform, like a learning management system, whether the vendor is from different companies? How are you going to ensure that?
So instructionally, I think it's backward design that works well. You start with the outcomes, figure out how you're going to test those outcomes, and then create the content. So that kind of answers the second question that you have. And on the, could you repeat the first part of your question, please?
It actually stems from one of the statements that you mentioned a while ago about engagement. So on the perspective of an educator, thinking, I mean, how are we going to increase learner, not learner engagement, but it's really more on learner presence in the e-learning platform?
Right. So I think learner presence can be included in various ways. Of course, you can build in checks, you can build in interactivities, but a more tech solution is actually, there now software that see with the learners even there, how the eye movement is, how they've reacted, also building collaboration. I continually say that, we have to move in and get collaboration, have learners collaborate with each other, and get them to actually work on projects even online, use tools online, see that really motivates. Peer motivation works really beautifully with learners.
Actually, the reason why I asked this question, because I am actually an advocate also of this platform, like e-learning. But
Yes.
working in a diverse environment, and as I told you, going to different places also, I don't like the fact that there are stereotypes, really. When in fact, when you go to other countries, I mean, let's say, if you go to the United States, most of the graduate programs are delivered in an e-learning platform. But I do not kind of understand in other societies.
So another way to actually combat that and get learner presence and get the outcomes out is flipped learning, where you get the learners to go through the e-learning content and then come back together, gather, and, then discuss what they've learned. So it has to be a hybrid model that would work really well.
That's great. That's actually great, the flipped, when you mentioned that. Thank you.
Actually, we could just make those lectures and those materials, interactive materials, we could just make them engaging,
Yes.
to make the students interested.
Absolutely.
This is the key point.
For sure.
Great. Do we have another question? We do. Please.
Oh, I've been wanting to ask this question. Hello, everybody. My name is Karen, and I traveled not so far away. I'm from Bahrain. Well, I've been asking myself yesterday when I was listening to the panel discussion on the generative AI, but it came ignited when I heard you guys talking about this more in details. So my job, being in the middle of academic institutions and industry, I find this choice, hard options between someone who wants to finish a bachelor's degree and someone who just wants to go on training because of the micro-credentials being offered on a wow salary in the end. And then after me training them how to speak publicly, I'll try to invite them, like, why don't you finish your bachelor's degree in a university? And they come back to me and say, hey, it's just the same. We can find way more options out there. So maybe from experts, you yourselves, maybe you have some advice on what e-learning initiatives could universities be embracing into? Like, are there futuristic, like in 2 years or 5 years, what could be the e-learning competencies that could invite more learning from this kinds of, well, I understand. I have nothing to say with the industries or agencies giving training and certifications. But then, of course, everybody would agree with me. That's why we are working in educational institution. Having a degree is also a good way to improve ourselves and go for work. So I would like to hear your advice on what e-learning initiatives could be possible in the next coming years.
Would you
Thank
like
you.
to take that, Pavel?
So I think that the problems of e-learning, and especially the data from COVID, the students in America, right, pretty much tanked on it. The simple fact is, I want you just to imagine that you're not dealing with a two-dimensional environment of listening to a lecture and then having to read and then having to engage, you know, and that's e-learning, right? Am I wrong? That's pretty much e-learning. So imagine instead you're having a dynamic conversation with the professor, right? The professor's talking to you, giving that personalized experience. And you're having a trouble with something. No problem. Let's go down that rabbit hole. And not only that, this is an engineering problem. And instead of in the traditional way, you're trying to study this graph and trying to understand it, what happens? You put on some goggles. You're right there. You're dealing with the engineering problem right there in your hand, and you're physically moving the object. We have that technology now. Did you see the Apple release recently on those headsets? Dude, all of this is changing, people. You're having a dinosaur conversation when you've got, you know, Homo sapiens out there that are about to say, hello, world. All right? So, I don't think any of this is a problem. Don't make it a problem, because ultimately the solutions are coming at a tsunami rate, right? And the simple fact is I'm going to alliterate again, being a teacher is going to be a fun thing for once, instead of, like in Japan, for example, a teacher goes to school at 7 o'clock in the morning, they go home. What do you think, what time they go home? Anyone have any idea? 9 o'clock at night. That's a Japanese teacher for you, right? And I met one here. She went into training. It's unbelievable what they put the teachers through. So e-learning is going to change in massive ways, because every student is going to have their own teacher. Just, you've got to, if any of you, who here is using GPT? Raise your hand. Who's using GPT-4? Raise your hand. The difference between GPT-3 and GPT-4 is the difference between an F student and an A+ student, just so you know, all right? And also, don't use cheat sheets with GPT, okay? Think of it as a savant without any emotions, right? and treat it as, train it with what you want. And you should have a chat for every different thing that you want, right? Don't try to do everything in one, compartmentalize it. And if you do that, you will be amazed at this artificial intelligence and what it can do and provide. It isn't there to regurgitate stuff. You can use it that way, but you're missing out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm afraid we're completely out of time for
You
now.
know it. If I'm up here, you know what it's time to do. So I'll let you wrap it up, Pavel. You've done a great job with your panelists. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Can I say one thing? So basically you all know Oculus, right? Anyone who doesn't know who Oculus is? Raise your hand. Okay, good. You all know. So Oculus launched in 2012. Their first product came out in 2016. I'm launching EDUITs now. So you can go to eduit.org if you want to be first in line. And not only that, if you come to me and say, hey, Mike, I signed up. I want one of your EDUITs. I'll give you an exclusive t-shirt. Right?
All right.
I will sign it, and you can say, hey, I have an Undoubted Deoo original. There ain't any more of these. I've got only about 6 of them with me. That's all I could carry with my 2 carry-ons. So and you guys are the first ones. When I get my reward, I'll be saying it again. Right? I got 6 t-shirts. I hope
There's
6
people,
sign
free
up.
t-shirts
Amazing.
right there from Mike.
Okay.
Right? Cool. Awesome. Well, you know what to start the conversation. Give them a round of applause.
EDUIT.org.
Thank you, guys. Great job. Could you